Fastlane was a few weeks ago, so you must excuse me if my memories of this are a bit fuzzy. I took some notes while the show was going on, and I'm sure my memory will be refreshed because this show pissed me off. I watched the pre-show, which was an interview with Heyman and The Miz. And they were talking with Mizdow. Okay. This Mizdow thing has gone on months too long. This makes no fucking sense. I've said this before, and I'm going to keep saying it. This show, the Mizdow thing makes no fucking sense. What the fuck is going on? Okay, I know things have changed up to this point, but this thing where he was a stunt double, I believe by Fastlane he had been fired as his stunt double, and then he's like, well, I've rehired you as my personal assistant. And then Miz proceeds to treat him just like shit, to do menial labor, like shine his shoes, and then shine his sunglasses, clean his glasses up, and then take his shit over to be dry cleaned, and wash his car, and just various shit. And the gimmick is that he would also ask him to do this shit in the middle of Sandow's matches. So he'd be wrestling somebody, like anybody, and then in the middle of the match he would ring a bell, like a little ring ding 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 bell, and he'd say, Mizdow, my glasses are dirty. Clean my glasses for me. And he would get out of the ring and start doing it. And then he'd be like, you may go now, and then he'd turn around and get kicked in the face. It's not even a comedy. Like, it'd be one thing if it was a comedy gimmick, and it's not. Or if it's supposed to be, they suck. It's why the fuck is he doing this? Why? At first, I thought that Sandow was doing this because they're friends, or he thought it would be funny. It's like I'm such good friends with The Miz. I'm gonna hang out and be a stunt double because dressing up is fun, and I'm gonna do this silly thing, and we're gonna. But no, then he starts like getting kicked in the face all the fucking time because of stunt double, and it became clear that he really had been hired as his stunt double, even though that made no sense either, because for one, stunt doubles actually look like the person they're stunt doubling. For another, that's not how stunt doubles work, because Miz insisted on, because he kept being jealous and fearing that Sandow was overshadowing him, more popular than him and overshadowing him, he insisted in all the tag matches in wrestling every moment of those matches and leaving Sandow on the apron. His stunt double being left on the apron. When usually one has your stunt double in harm's way, taking all the abuse, while you stand out of harm's way comfortably, not getting hurt, instead of wrestling the entire match. So, after weeks and months, fucking months, of getting his ass kicked and getting verbally and physically abused by this guy, he gets fired as his stunt double. Stunt double for what? I don't know. Because it's not like The Miz in character got movie roles and then had Sandow actually stunt double him in any of the movies that he was in. Ever. Didn't happen. Then he hires him as his personal assistant, where he proceeds to get his ass kicked even more. Answer me this. At any point, why did Sandow ever agree to this? Did he need the money? He works for the fucking WWE. He's getting money. What was The Miz paying paying him. It can't have been that good. Because, like, it's just a comedy gimmick. And it's been going on and on and on and on. And they became the fucking tag team champions. And they beat the fucking Usos. And I don't even fucking like the Usos that much. But they were put over as like the most dominant fucking tag team of 2014. The guys who fucking ended the Shield. They beat the Shield. And so these are the guys who beat the fucking Usos. They... Apparently there was a 6-man tag where Ziggler lost. Really? No shit. There was a Tyson Kidd match where he won with the moss-covered 3-handled family credenza, which I marked out for. He really did. Where else? One that made me nuclear was Ambrose and Barrett, which ended in a DQ. Oh God, I remember why. I'll get to this. Okay. Sting and Triple H. This was rich. I knew nothing was going to happen here. But previously on Raw, Triple H had called out the Vigilante Sting. I'm sorry. He's the Vigilante Sting. For all the vigilantism he's done. So he's like, Sting, I want you at Fastlane. And everyone's like, yay, we're going to see Sting and Triple H at Fastlane. Yay! I don't know what people were expecting. I think people were probably expecting a match. That's not what they got. If you really thought there was going to be a match between Sting and Triple H at Fastlane, you ignorant sluts. No, he challenged him to talking at Fastlane, which is not what happened either. So he comes out and he's like, Sting, you better come out here or don't. So yeah. And so Sting, he comes out there in his pirate coat with red patches on the elbows, looking like a crow pirate. And he comes to the ring, and he's scowling. The Vigilante Sting is scowling. He's standing in the ring. And Triple H proceeds to talk for about 4 hours. Like I do, but longer. And he starts going on about WCW. A lot. Here's what I don't get. You're pitching this show to kids, by and large. Then you're bringing up WCW. Okay, I know this is a historic match. Okay, you're trying to, so you have to bring up his past. And yet this show is entirely about, this match is entirely about his past. But they're just talking entirely about WCW. All of it. And the kids just watching this must be going, who is this guy? WCW, I never watched this. Dad, who's this? There's a guy in funny face paint. And he looks cool. And they're probably just cheering because he looks cool. And I guess for a lot of kids that's enough. But they're just hearing Triple H drone. Just
WCW, you were the last guy on a sinking ship. And you couldn't take it because I was in the ring. And you were drowning in the Titanic that was Eric Bischoff's bullshit. You know, like...
And I'm just so bored. It's on and on about WCW.
You were the franchise player, Sting. You were the icon. You were the guy who was holding that place up on your back. You were the pillar of strength. You were the one guy that company was based around, Sting. In the ring. You hated me because I was the guy. I was the guy who brought down WCW. Sting.
And it's just all bullshit. He's just on.
Sting, you ran that place.
You know, just making shit up now. Like,
you were crucified, and then in 3 days you returned from the dead, Sting. And then you saw the crow, and you ceased being a surfer, Sting. And then you became the most popular wrestler in the history of WCW, Sting. And then when WCW folded, you ceased to exist for years until you appeared in this ring, Sting. There may have been some other company. No, but there wasn't, Sting.
No mention of TNA, because we can't... There was no... Yeah, we can't ever talk about that.
Sting.
But yeah, they start going on and on, or he starts going on and on about how,
you were the icon. The entire company was focused around you. You were the leader. You were the guy that everyone looked up to. You were the first guy in and the last guy out. You were the captain of the sinking ship. And I respect that, Sting. But I was the guy who torpedoed that ship. You had the NWO, but I had D-Generation X. And I drove a tank through the walls of WCW, Sting.
And if it sounds like I'm just making up bullshit and just droning on and on, trust me, he went on twice as long and made up twice as much bullshit. Because all this crap about Sting being the number one icon and, being the rallying force, the leader, the most popular guy in WCW, the one guy, the face WCW, everything they said. I can't even remember half the shit they said. But it's bullshit. And he's going on and on. He's like, you couldn't take it, Sting. You couldn't take it. You couldn't take the fact that I was the guy who brought down the entire company, Sting. You couldn't take my success. You couldn't take the fact that I had a cool tank with a gun between my legs, demonstrating my enormous penis. You couldn't take the fact that I was nailing China. And that's why you're here, Sting. You want your revenge for all those years that I spent here fucking Katie Vick. I was way more successful, Sting. Because WCW sucked, blah, 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 Sting. This whole time, this entire time, this is what Sting is doing. That's it. This wasn't exactly a debate.
While Sting was... While WCW was sinking, I was doing crotch chops and fighting The Undertaker, Sting. I was getting pedigreed by the Ultimate Warrior, Sting.
And Sting is just like,
You were jealous of me and jealous of D-Generation X and Evolution, and all you had was NWO t-shirts to sell at lousy conventions with Virgil, Sting.
He is talking and talking and he's telling us all about why Sting is here. He's
that's why you're here, Sting. That's why you're a vigilante. That's why you're here to bring down the authority, Sting. Isn't it?
He's just
WCW. That's why you're here. You could
saying nothing. It's all about WCW. It would have been so funny if, then the thing is, I think Triple H takes a swing at him or something like that, and then he holds a bat to his throat, and then things break down. But anyway, it would have been so funny if Sting just held his hand out, like asking for the microphone, and then Triple H looks confused, hands over the microphone, and he takes the microphone and he goes, actually, I am. I feel a little silly now. I kind of wanted a match with The Undertaker. And then hands the mic back. Or he takes the mic and is like, no, it has nothing to do with WCW, man. I just thought you were treating Daniel Bryan like shit. I don't think it's fair. Or hands it back, hands the microphone. No, Stephanie hired me. or I'm not Sting. I bought a ticket and I took the wrong door. Hands on the microphone. Actually, I was just looking for the bathroom. And then things got way out of hand. Or takes the microphone and is like, would be nice if you let me talk just once. I've been coming here for like 3 weeks. And I haven't been able to get a word in edgewise. It's actually very rude. Like, at no point did anybody hand me a microphone. You've just been going on to WCW. That was like 15 years ago. Like, I went to another company. I was a world champion there. I've moved on, man. Why are you still going? Dude, I just want to have a match. I've never been to WrestleMania. I want to be a wrestling. Isn't that enough? Fuck off. Like, at no point in this entire thing, at no point did he say a word. And I know they're trying to go for like this mysterious, aloof vigilante thing, but he's just sitting there going like, very patiently listening, going like, and I was projecting this sense of him like actually kind of being very internally frustrated, like, can I talk now? Like, anytime you want to shut up, like, can someone hand me a microphone? Like, I would love to discuss this with you, but keep going. Anyway, but no, like the face of the icon of WCW, that's debatable. There's a few guys that I could describe that. Yeah, no. I'm sure there's a few guys you could describe that. Sting was no. He was pretty good. But it's not a good sign when the most memorable thing the biggest memory I have of Sting is him being saved by RoboCop. And that was Surfer Sting. So it would have been really interesting to see Surfer Sting return. In fact, that would be really cool. Will never happen. But my favorite part of this is Triple H takes a run at him, and I to this day I will never understand what happens here. He takes a run at him, and from under his pirate coat, he holds his baseball bat. Like, hang on. He finds the thing. He finds it. Fucking. Find the thing. Fuck it. Ah. Where is it? I got it. He takes his thing. Whoa. He has a bat. Whoa. And he holds it under his throat. He takes his baseball bat. And he's like, mm. And Triple H, like he has a fucking machete under his chin. He's like, ha, ha, mm, ha, mm. Like that, but more scared. He's got a baseball bat under his chin. He's like, ha, ha, ha. You know? So, and Sting is just like, now he's got the crazy eyes. He's like, you know, I'm gonna fuck you up, man. Ha, 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 ha. Triple H is looking like such a pussy right now. But he's acting like there's a sword to his throat. Like, oh my God. You know. Or it's like he's got a shotgun, like under his chin. And Sting is like, you make one move, motherfucker, I'm gonna blow your fucking head off. You know, he's not saying that, but I'm like, it's a baseball bat. Now, not to say a guy with a bat to your throat couldn't hurt you, but I don't know. I don't expect like this respect. Like, this. What the fuck was this? I don't see being pinned in the corner. Like, if anything, I would have like if he'd have been like this, like ready to swing or something like that. I would have been like, oh Jesus, no, don't hit me. Like, but no, he's like. If anything, this is the worst thing you could do is. Because then you have to like it was stupid. So he's acting like he's got a gun to his face. Then Sting does the stereotypical thing where he points to the WrestleMania sign because he wants a match. And Triple H looks confused. Like, what? He's like first he's like, what are you pointing at? He really does. He's like, what could you possibly be pointing at? And then it takes him a minute to process both what he's pointing at and what could that symbolism mean. Oh, I'll play your game, Vigilante Sting. You're on. How long have you been doing this, Triple H? In fact, wasn't the last... I believe the last match he had with The Undertaker was as simple as him like going face to face with Taker, looking at the sign, and then nodding like badasses. But no, he had to... what? Oh. The bat under the chin. Oh my God. What the fuck? Sorry about that. You had to... Goldust and Stardust. This is another example of what the fuck booking. The story, in brief, is Goldust and Cody Rhodes had banded together as a tag team until they started having trouble. They were on a losing streak. Instead of turning heel, however, Cody reinvented himself as Stardust, and they went on. They were a great team together. Pardon me. But then Stardust started to become a little unhinged, to the point where Goldust was telling him, like, I'm not even kidding. He goes, "Look, it's possible to go too deep with this character you're going into." Man, too gravelly. He goes, "You're going too far into this. It's just a persona, Cody. But you can go too deep into it. I've been where you're going, and you don't want to go there." And so, Cody is starting to freak out on him. He's going full Stardust. You wonder if he's got the paint on at home all the time. Probably does. So he's freaking out. He's going, "Cody's dead. I'm always Stardust." So eventually, Stardust turns heel on him, beats the shit out of Goldust, and there's going to be a match. So the match is going to go down at Fastlane. Dusty Rhodes meets with Goldust to try to talk some reason into them. And so he's like, look, Dustin, I don't want there to be any problems. I know that Cody is, Cody's kind of lost his mind, but I don't want anyone to get hurt. Don't want anyone to get hurt. Okay, I just want you to have a match. I just want you to your brothers. Remember that. Okay, they say Indians can't play golf, but this Indian can play golf. Just remember that. You used to ride bicycle. Just remember that. You guys are brothers. And so he's like, "Dad, I've tried to talk reason into Cody." And by the way, trying to talk reason into a guy who has gone too far into wearing a latex body condom and wearing creepy gold face paint. When you're trying to talk sense into a guy wearing, the creepy gold face paint, you probably should not also be wearing a black and gold latex body condom and creepy gold face paint. It doesn't come off well. Anyway, Goldust says, "This isn't about, I can't reason with him. And I'm not going to go there and just have a normal match. I'm going to go in there and beat the hell out of him. And I'm going to beat the hell out of him so bad that he is never going to even want to think about putting on that paint again." So they go out there and have a boring fucking match that in no way involves intense physical abuse, that in no way involves weapons or like choking or punching or like beating up people in such a grotesque way. No, instead, Goldust wins with a roll-up pin. Out of nowhere. That was botched. And then he leaves. So much for beating the hell out of him to the point he's never going to want to put the paint on again. Yeah, he wins with a flash pin and just walks away. Okay, you're supposed to beat the crap out of him. I thought you didn't do that. No, I'm sitting there watching this match going like, they're just doing like simple submissions. They're just doing chin locks and they're just doing it. They're having a normal match. They're doing a SmackDown match. It's just a match you'd see on TV. If that. And it's long and it's boring. And it's like, you'd think there'd be some kind of emotion behind this. And it's a match you can kind of tell they've rehearsed 1,000 times. Because you can tell it's the kind of match they've wanted to have a long time. Why would they want to have this match, though? you'd think they'd want to have a match with a lot of emotion behind, a lot of intensity. And I don't know if maybe if they didn't let them have that match, but for a match they vowed to have, like, I'm going to beat the hell out of him, that's not what we got. So then Goldust just wins. He's the better man. And Stardust looks just so upset with himself. He's like, oh my god, he beat me! Oh god, damn it! He's like, fuck! God damn it! And he goes backstage and, you know, Dusty's whatever, and Goldust is whatever, and Stardust goes back there and he's like, Cody, I hope now you, I hope you two can put this all behind you, and your brother, though, right? You could, just we're family. I want you all to understand that, Cody. And Cody goes, Cody's dead, and as far as I'm concerned, you're dead too. Dusty Rhodes killed him. Dusty Rhodes killed Cody Rhodes, and then he storms off, and you're like, okay. So we're gonna have another match, I assume. That we're all gonna have this conclude at WrestleMania. Nope. Really, all seem to be building to a WrestleMania match. That's not going to happen, because apparently we needed Stardust for the 67-person clusterfuck for the Intercontinental title ladder match. So, I don't know what happened here, but apparently they just fucking pulled the plug on the Goldust-Stardust feud. Look, I know that match was no great shakes, but they could have done better. Sometimes you just have a snoozer match. You and I know they could do better, and they probably would do better given a second chance. I mean, it's WrestleMania. Those guys are going to bust their asses. But I guess maybe they figured they just didn't have the time to give them on the card, and they just figured, let's just throw them in a match with everyone else. And that's going to be the story of WrestleMania, which I'll get to. But yeah, so much for Goldust and Stardust, which is apparently a match those two have been wanting to have for fucking years. Nope. Instead, Goldust just wins, and, well, that's it. Oh. Then there was the Undertaker's dong. The Undertaker's dong filled the arena, and everyone got excited because there was the Undertaker's dong, and there were druids that entered the ring following the Undertaker's dong, and so everyone's like, "Ooh, the Undertaker's here," because we all just, that's the Undertaker's dong, and so the Undertaker must be right behind it. So you see them bringing a casket out, and of course it's not. I knew it wasn't the Undertaker, but apparently everyone else thought it was. Like, you're stupid. And inside was, they bring the casket out, and Bray Wyatt's inside. So apparently, not only does Bray Wyatt know where to rent a casket, or he got one off Craigslist, but he had fake druids. He had fruids. Where do you get fruids? Also on Craigslist, I needed 24 fake druids. Call the Wyatt compound at 6324 Wyatt. if you have previous fruid training, it's a plus. And he just goes on and on about, find me, Undertaker! But yeah, or maybe he just, on the Wyatt compound, he just bought a bunch of robes, and they bought a bunch of torches, and they rehearsed very quickly a fruid entrance. And they did the Undertaker's thing. I like to picture this. The six-man tag where Ziggler lost. My favorite bits are how bad they've killed Eric Rowan. My God. That's one of the biggest things that's killed me. I guess I'll talk about. I guess I'll talk about Bray Wyatt right now. First thing, the two worst things they've done this year, the past couple of years, is they broke up the Shield and they broke up the Wyatts. Bray Wyatt has never been the same, and neither has the Shield. But Bray Wyatt, they have killed him dead without Luke Harper and Eric Rowan, and consequently they have killed both of those guys just as dead. Which is a shame, because Luke Harper especially has so much talent. One would think they could have given him a serious singles run had they not fucked him up as well. But they just don't know how to book him properly. And Eric Rowan, my God, have they left him out to dangle on his own. Because he's the guy who seriously needs to be in a tag team. Because he's not going to cut it on his own. And he's not. Instead, he has become the biggest fucking loser. Whereas Bray Wyatt is now a cult leader with no cult. Because before, he had a fucking cult. He had, like, he would bring these followers to the ring. He had a squad of brainwashed fucking children, including a satanic singing child with a demon voice. He has a fucking genie. And where did Luke Harper and Eric Rowan come from? Where he could brainwash them into wearing creepy fucking sheep masks. Now he's just on his own now. Why does he not bring anyone else? I'm not trying to be an asshole here. Like, really, this is pressing questions to me. Because here's why. This whole thing with The Undertaker he's going on about is he keeps going on about how he wants to destroy The Undertaker, who has been destroyed already. He wants to destroy him to prove that he is the new face of fear. Okay. Whoever the new face of fear is, I'm pretty sure that he doesn't look like he's getting wasted away again in Margaritaville. And I'm pretty sure he doesn't wear shitty Hawaiian shirts. But, if he did, let's just roll with that. Because they've been doing creepy shit with him. Or they used to, up until they broke up the Wyatt clan. And it worked with him. Because Undertaker has these magic deadman powers. And Bray Wyatt, they've shown that on occasion he can do, but have never explained, weirdo voodoo psychic Leatherface shit. He has a genie, which I don't know. And he has creepy Satan children, which I don't know. Really should explain this at some point, or at least give a reason for it. You don't need to explain it, but, like, okay, Sister Abigail. We know she was somebody, but what? Why is he able to do these things? Because apparently he can teleport. Okay. Because he's creepy? Is that his power? Is that he's creepy? If so, fine. But tell me that. So, here's my point. Is that if we're to believe that he's the new face of fear, if that's what this is about, I can roll with that. Because believe it or not, this is fine. I'm actually down with this storyline. But it doesn't work unless you can back this shit up. Because right now, he's just a guy. But before, he actually had power. Because he had people under his sway. You could believe that he had, you could believe that he could manipulate people with fear because he had a cult. And you could see it. He had those two creepy, scary guys behind him. He had muscle. He had the creepy children that he could bend the wills of men. All right? He had these people that he could call. How many? From where? I don't know. You didn't know. But he had powers like you hadn't seen before. It was comparable, but not like The Undertaker. I know it sounds silly. and it is. But in character, fine. Okay? And it had that little scary, jump scare thing with the video. It was, like I said, it was like Leatherface type thing. Hills Have Eyes type magic. Fine. But you had to be able to see it. It had to be there. And when they broke up the Wyatts, it was no longer there. You just had a guy in a Hawaiian shirt and a hat. That's it. Whereas when you have this guy in a crazy sheet mask, you're like, oh wow, he did something to that guy to make him wear a crazy fucked up mask. He did something to that guy to make him bug his eyes out all the fucking time. They come from some creepy part of the swamp, and God knows what they're doing in that fucking swamp, because apparently he's got a whole fucking compound full of brainwashed weirdos. Now, we've just got a guy who wanders around with a lantern. He's just a guy. You follow? And so they've really done a lot to undermine him. They had Daniel Bryan in a really ill-advised heel turn join the Wyatts because he had a beard. Literally, that's why they did it. It's because they're like, oh, he has a beard, and they all have beards. That would be funny if they joined, and they're like, oh shit, what have we done? Well, he was trying to infiltrate them to strike at Bray Wyatt in a moment of weakness. You buy that? We're like, no. Fuck it, they'll have a match. Okay. So much for Bray Wyatt's brainwashing ability. But he has to, like... It's not working. At all. I would have done this differently. I would have done something like... I would have had The Undertaker inducted to the Hall of Fame this year. I might not have actually done it this year, but I would have announced it. And here's what I would have done. I would have had Bray Wyatt jump in and be like, nah, it ain't gonna happen like that. Nah, you see, dead man, Hall of Fame. The Hall of Fame is full of pictures. And the picture I remember, dead man, is the picture of you looking evil, the face of evil, eyes rolled back. The picture of your opponents struck down with fear. And that's the face I remember, dead man, the face of fear. And the face that struck down opponents with intimidation alone. That's the face I remember. Until last year, dead man. And this is the face that people remember now. And they're going to show the faces of all the people that were, heartbroken when they lost. And then they're gonna close with the face of the funny bug-eyed black guy. And he goes, that's the face people remember, dead man. That's the face. That's the face of the Undertaker now. And it's just, you ain't gonna go into the Hall of Fame like that, Undertaker. I'm not gonna let it happen. That's not gonna be the face of the Undertaker. So, you show up at WrestleMania, it'd be the last place you ever show up. I'm not gonna let that be immortalized. I'm not gonna let that be the last thing people remember the Undertaker. One way or the other, there's going to be a face of fear put in the Hall of Fame. It's either going to be that, or it's going to be the picture of your broken bones laying in the middle of that ring as the final appearance of the dead man, and me standing over him. Something like that. So even though you've announced him for the Hall of Fame, you've got one more match out of him because you've had Bray Wyatt threaten him. So you announce the Hall of Fame thing, you start the ceremony, and then you announce the Undertaker first. So all of a sudden, there's the Undertaker's dong, and then Bray Wyatt interferes. Bray Wyatt appears, And he's like, I told you, dead man! I told you not to show! Where are you? You know, he says, I knew you was stupid. I knew you was a fool. Come fill your destiny, dead man. Come join immortality. You know, and then the Undertaker appears. And then they have a match. Interrupts the entire Hall of Fame thing. It doesn't happen, basically, not then. Then they have their match, Undertaker beats him. Then you continue with your Hall of Fame thing. Whether or not he actually is inducted that year, whatever. But in a way, you kind of have stealthed a match out of The Undertaker, even though you haven't announced one. That would be my move. But this whole Face of Fear thing, I would have done something where, you know, Bray Wyatt was actually kind of being complimentary in trying to, like, save The Undertaker's memory. Because he's like, you know, I'm all about fear, and I'm trying to save you! Something like that. But, no. This whole thing where he's like, I will assume your place! I will assume your place in hell, dead man! Fuck it. Ugh. Instead, he's got fruids. That's it. That was Fastlane. It sucked. Oh, Roman Reigns and Daniel Bryan. It happened just like I said it would go down. Nobody believed me. I knew they weren't going to have another triple threat match. How did I know that? Because I figured they just... For one, I didn't think they were going to be that predictable. For another, I just figured I just figured they looked at last year and they'd be like, we just can't do that again. We can't do that again. I figured stubbornness would set in, you know, and they just say like, no, we're doing Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar. God damn it! And here's the third thing I figured is if I were booking it, I would have had Roman Reigns go over Daniel Bryan clean, and then have Daniel Bryan endorse Roman Reigns as the real deal. You know, he says, well, guys, he beat me fair and square. He's the real deal, guys. You know, now, the crowd shit all over it, but because they saw right through it, you know, they because even during the match, it was a fairly. It wasn't as lopsided at the beginning of the match as you would have thought. The crowd support. There were a lot of people behind Roman Reigns during that match. It wasn't like, you know, it wasn't 95-5 for Daniel Bryan. It was more even than you'd think. But during the match, as things went on, they started to realize that it really was Daniel Bryan who was carrying that match. And that's not even being a fanboy. They couldn't help but realize who the talent was in that match. You know, it just shone through. It was just clear as day. You know, so even if you were a Roman Reigns fan, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm a Roman Reigns fan. But the thing is, you're watching that match going. He is doing everything he can to make Roman Reigns look good, and he's succeeding. But Daniel Bryan's awesome, you know, and by the end of it, it was seriously like 90-10 Daniel Bryan cheers. And so even though you had Daniel Bryan go over Roman Reigns clean, or Roman Reigns go over Daniel clean, you know, the next night, you know, he goes over and he's like, there's no one who doubted you more than me. These people didn't respect you. I didn't respect you. But damn, you know what? You won. You know, you won. You beat me, and that night you were the better man, and you proved a lot to me, and I respect that. And now what you got to do is you got to go on, and you better freaking beat Brock Lesnar. And so, you showed you had enough heart to beat me, and I'm like, that's exactly what I would have done. And the crowd didn't buy it. Now, this goes to show you that not every idea I have is correct. Maybe in this case it was. But I'm like, if you asked me to book this and try to bail you out of it, that's what I would have done. But but I would not, if you were asking me, I would not have put Daniel Bryan in that main event. I wouldn't. That being said, I would not have put Daniel Bryan in that fucking Intercontinental title match. I'll tell you that for free. So that's the end of part 2. Part 3, I'm going to talk about this fucking Raw where I went fucking nuclear. Fuck this. I lost my fucking... Now, come back for part 3.